Well. Welcome to Money Monday. I'm excited to be here. It's Nakia Carter. We're going to get started at promptly at 9 o'clock. That's in about 2 minutes. So let's allow people to come on in. Make sure you have something to write with. Tonight, we're talking about sinking funds. So I know you've seen it all over Instagram, all over TikTok. Let's talk about it, what it is, what it looks like, how to do it, the benefits, and all that good stuff. So come on in. Hey, Candy, welcome to Money Monday. Hopefully you're doing well, feeling well, looking well, all those good things. Thank you for joining. We'll get started in about another minute or so. We're going to start promptly at 9 o'clock. And if you're just joining, we're talking about sinking funds. So let's give people another 45 seconds or so they can come on in, and then we'll get started. I think you guys, let me make sure. Okay. Let me just that a little. All right. Hey, Jay, welcome to Money Monday. Tonight we're talking about sinking funds. So we got another about 20, 25 more seconds to go. So let me watch my clock. All right, it's 9 o'clock. So tonight we're talking about sinking funds. I know you've seen it all over TikTok, all over Instagram. You've probably seen it on websites if you're into like money budgeting and that type of thing. So what is sinking funds? Sinking funds are just funds that you set aside for X, Y, and Z. They're a special purpose. People have been doing this for years. We talked about it a few weeks ago when we talked about forecasting, and it's just money that you set aside for a special purpose. Okay, so it can be for a vacation, it could be for a car or home repairs because you know that those are going to come up. It could be for Christmas gifts, kids' expenses. If your kids go to camp every year, or you're doing back to school shoppings, you can use sinking funds for that. It can be for a wedding or an event. If you know, your birthday's coming up or you're getting married, you say, okay, this is our wedding fund. That's a sinking fund. Okay. Hey, Whitney, welcome to Money Monday. It's basically for large purchases or medical needs or taxes or whatever large purchase that you can plan for or whatever purchase you can plan for. It doesn't necessarily have to be a large purchase. It can be something small. It can be a few $100s, whatever it is, but you're basically saving for a purpose. Okay. Now I know you're thinking, why not just use my emergency fund? And that's a good question. Emergency funds are usually used for unexpected expenses or surprises. So like if you know you want to go on a vacation, you would not typically use your emergency fund for that reason. Your emergency fund is usually kept in a high yield savings. And we know we start with at least a base of $1,000 and then keep adding to it so that we have between 3 and 6 months worth of expenses in there. That's your emergency fund. Your sinking fund is for infrequent items, but they're planned. So as I said earlier, if you're going on vacation, if you know that you're going to need breaks in a couple months or new tires, or if your kids are going back to school, summer camp, the amounts can vary. So you don't need $1,000 per se or 3 to 6 months worth of blah, blah, blah. It's going to vary based on the expense. So if you know that you want to allocate $1,500 for your vacation, that's how much is going to go into your sinking fund. If you know, new tires in your car are going to be $700, that's the amount that will go into your sinking fund. And typically you keep this money in envelopes if you live by the envelope method, or you keep it in a separate savings account away from your emergency fund. Okay. So it's dedicated for a special purpose, but you don't too much want to mix and mingle that with your emergency savings, just because that's a slippery slope and you could end up spending that money. Okay. Now, the main idea behind sinking funds is that you save X amount per month. And once you reach your goal, then you spend it. So going back to a vacation, if you say, okay, I want to go to Bora Bora, it's going to take me $1,500. I'm going to add that into my Bora Bora sinking fund. And once I get my $1,500, baby, I'm out of here. Right. So that's how you use the sinking fund. If it sounds familiar, that's because it's been around a long time. It just has a different name. I talked about it a few weeks ago with forecasting. I've talked about it with goal setting. I've talked about it with goal math. If you've watched plenty of these Money Monday episodes, I've talked about it there. It's a part of budgeting. A lot of people do it But the thing that separates people apart is consistency and tracking. Okay. And I'm going to get into that in a second. You know, with our money, those are the two main things that make the difference. It's the consistency in how you do it. And it's the budgeting part of it and how you're tracking and how you're pivoting and how you're adjusting. Okay. So how do you create a sinking fund? What does that look like? The first thing that you want to do is create your category. So what is this sinking fund going to be dedicated to? After you get X amount of dollars, what is that money going to go to? What is that going to be allocated to? Once you create your category or create what you want that fund to be dedicated to, then you can move to step 2, which is how much you're going to need for that category, right? And we talked about this in forecasting 2 weeks ago. So if you're going to need $1,500 for Bora Bora, that's how much you need to allocate, and that's how much you need to be planning to save in your sinking fund. If you need $1,000 for the kids back to school items or whatever, that's how much you allocate for your sinking fund. So you create your category, you set the amount for the category. Third is you take action. A lot of times we talk about it, but we don't be about it. And so when you take action, that looks like deciding on the how, right? What that looks like. How are you going to save this money in your sinking fund? Are you going to put all of your side hustle money into your sinking fund? Or are you going to use the cash envelope method where you're going to be cash stuffing? Or are you going to use a $5 can? Or are you going to open up a new savings account? How much are you going to save? How often are you going to save? Have you built this into your budget? That's the how I'm talking about. And once you come up with the how, you pretty much are going uphill from there because the how is typically the hardest part. For the fourth step that you want to do is track, and then adjust as needed, right? The last thing that you want to do if you have a Christmas sinking fund is get to December 15th and you only have $2 of your $1,000 for your Christmas gifts and you don't know because you haven't been tracking it. So when you are creating these sinking funds, make sure that you're tracking consistently how much money is going into that sinking fund, where that money is coming from, how you're pivoting when maybe you fell off and you didn't contribute to that sinking fund for 2 months. What are you going to do? You have to track it so that you know where you're strong, where you're weak, so on and so forth. Candy said cash envelope works for her. See, that's good, Candy, that you know that because that works for you. Cash does not work for me. So I would have to open up an entire separate account on the other side of town in order to be successful with my sinking funds. And I've done that. So I'm glad that you know that. That's a huge step in figuring out your strategy and the how and actually being successful. And then 5, you want to pivot, right? So anytime you have a money goal, anytime you're tracking that money goal, anytime you're working towards something, you have to have a plan of how you're going to pivot if you need to, right? If something goes wrong, maybe something comes up, maybe you get off track. How are you going to pivot and move forward? It's simple. It's easy. Once you do these 4 steps, you can move forward as needed. And then this will help you reach those financial goals without dipping into your emergency fund. That's it. Quick, simple, easy to the point. I do have a note here. I saw an interesting article about the housing market. So you guys know I've been talking about buying a house recently and buying houses and blah, 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 and what that looks like. The housing analysts for Morgan Stanley expect home prices to drop next year, right? So, during the pandemic, things were bananas. They got crazy. People were buying houses for hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking. They weren't getting inspections. They weren't getting appraisals. Well, the good news is housing prices are starting to drop and they are on track to drop in 2024. So if you want to become a homeowner, if you're not a homeowner, or maybe you want to buy a new home or a different home or move out of state or whatever, start planning for that now so that when 2024 comes, you're ready to go. Okay. Hope you guys enjoy Money Mondays. Make sure you like and share with a friend. I'll make it public so you can do that. Thanks for joining. I will see you all next Monday. Bye-bye. Candy said more investment property. I love it, Candy. Let me know how that goes. I'll see you later.